Part 76. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 751. Qi Zhen looked at Zhang Lingzi walking towards him, nodded, and commented in a neither soft nor serious voice, "Not bad." Everyone who heard this comment was sour and envious for a moment. After spending so many hours together, they had some understanding of Coach Qi's character. In the eyes of the other party, they are not big stars at all, just ordinary students. If there are deficiencies in any aspect, just tell them directly, and there is no distinction between them. The requirements are still very high. So far, only Zhang Lingzi has received a good evaluation, and they have received nothing. Okay, get ready, we'll meet in the multimedia room next door in 10 minutes. After attending 2 more theoretical classes, it was finally time for dinner when my head was spinning. Everyone finally got their mobile phones after being away from them all afternoon. Don't be busy preparing meals, first check if there are any messages on your phone. Zhang Lingzi became the first to go to the window to get food. The lady behind the window who was in charge of cooking was still impressed by her, so she asked directly this time, "Girl, do you want me to prepare more for you?" "Yes, thank you, Auntie." You're welcome, you're welcome." Zhang Lingzi turned around to go to the dining area with a full plate in her hand. She suddenly heard a snicker and raised her eyes to look over. Xiao Yu, who was caught, quickly stood up at attention, touched his nose and said, "Hello, hello, Teacher Zhang. What are you laughing at?" "Me, it just occurred to me that Teacher Zhang and I were both famous as rice cooks because of our big appetites. I thought I was the only one, but I didn't expect Teacher Zhang to be with me." Zhang Lingzi. She didn't know what was so funny about it. Maybe it's because the other person's smile is low. Xiao Zhang. Feng Su, who had already prepared the meal in advance and sat down to eat, waved to Zhang Lingzi. Zhang Lingzi nodded towards Xiao Yu, carried the dinner plate and walked to sit opposite Feng Su. "Director Feng. It's okay. I just want to say a few words to you. Let's talk while we eat." Feng Su looked at the light dishes on Zhang Lingzi's plate, then looked at the fried chicken wings and sweet and sour short ribs on the plate in front of him, and coughed lightly. He said, "Coach Qi told me about your performance in class in the afternoon. I also watched the screen recording. Coach Qi said that your psychological quality is very good." Sulinor lined up behind Chen Kexin, but her eyes couldn't stop moving towards where Zhang Lingzi and Director Feng were sitting. Although it wasn't noisy in the restaurant, it was a bit far away and the other party's voice was quiet. Even if she strained her ears, she couldn't hear what Director Feng was saying. But just looking at Director Feng's expression, 9 times out of 10 he had good words. "Teacher Chen, Director Feng is talking to Teacher Zhang. I guess he is very satisfied with Teacher Jiang's performance in the afternoon training. Alas, I am the worst performer. I have to work hard next." Chen Kexin took the plate and said, "Please give me half a portion of rice." "Thank you." Sulinor stood behind and couldn't help but quietly rolled her eyes. "It's already late at night and I'm still eating so much. I really think I have as big an appetite as Zhang Lingzi." But when it was my turn, I said, "Auntie, please give me a few more shrimps." The two sat down facing each other with plates in hand. They looked at the portion of food on each other's plates that was obviously a little larger than the standard, and tacitly picked up their chopsticks and started eating. Feng Su not only talked to Zhang Lingzi, he also talked to other people one by one. After all, Qi Zhen is only responsible for training racing, and he has to select the most satisfactory candidate among these people. There is a cruel reality that everyone knows very well. In the end, almost 2/3 of them will be eliminated. When it came to the physical training session in the evening, the spirits of all the male students were shaken. They now admit that they lost to the female students in the simulated driving session in the afternoon, but they are strong in physical fitness, so they can't lose again. But the facts are particularly shocking. Not only did Zhang Lingzi do no worse than any of them, even Chen Qiun beat several of them. You can't compete with Sulinur, who is already petite and not physically strong enough. They are more shameless. After separating from Zhang Lingzi and the others on the way back to the dormitory, one of them whispered thankfully, "Fortunately, we have no competition with Teacher Zhang and Teacher Chen. We are all about the same level, ha ha ha." But after saying this, a few people couldn't help but glance at Xiao Yu, who was walking quietly at the end. Although this guy is a newcomer, his physical ability and body and appearance should not be underestimated. One side is rejoicing, while the other side is a little silent. Chen Qiun opened his mouth a few times, wanting to ask Zhang Lingzi if he usually works so hard. She used to be a professional racing driver. She thought her physical strength was enough to stand out among actresses, but she suffered a severe blow from dimensionality reduction, let alone mention it. But because of the unpleasantness of the first meeting in the morning, I couldn't ask this question. It was Sulinur who broke the silence. She walked between Zhang Lingzi and Chen Qiun, her words filled with envy and admiration. "You are all so awesome. I was full of confidence when I came here. However, I ended up at the bottom again. I'm afraid there is no hope for this competition. Director Feng, I should choose one of you." Chen Qiun subconsciously wanted to nod, and she also felt that Sulinur was not good at it. However, it would be a bit cruel to directly tell the other person that he is not good enough to give you gifts as soon as he comes and to accompany you during lunch and dinner. He had no choice but to console him dryly, "This is only the first day. How can we give up so soon? Then I will definitely persist as long as I can, even if I can't choose. It would be good to learn more about racing skills." Zhang Lingzi took out her room card and swiped open the door to her room. "I'll go in first." Sulinur waved her hand with a sweet smile. "Good night, Teacher Zhang, you can try the aromatherapy I gave you. It's very effective in helping you sleep." "It's okay, I can fall asleep quickly without any external aid." Looking at the closed door in front of her, Sulinur's expression changed quickly. Chen Qiun patted her shoulder and said, "I think your incense is very good and smells good. I will send you the purchase link later. Go to bed quickly, we have to go for a morning run tomorrow morning." The two of them went back to their respective houses. Zhang Lingzi took a shower and wiped her hair when she came out. When she saw the message from Shen Yunqing on her phone, she directly made a video call. "Has not rested yet. Just getting ready to sleep. How was your training?" "It's okay, the designed courses are quite interesting and not too tiring." A group of male students and Sulinur, who fell on the bed and didn't want to get up after entering the room, cried and fainted in the toilet. "I see on your training schedule that you have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go for a run. Remember to set the alarm before going to bed, or I will call you tomorrow morning." Then I choose the latter. Early the next morning, Zhang Lingzi received a call from Shen Yunqing and checked the time, which was 5:40. It was really hard to hit. Zhang Lingzi quickly washed up while chatting with him on the phone, and spent 10 minutes getting ready to go out. "I'll hang up, I'll hand in my phone during the day and contact you again in the evening." "Good." Qi Zhen had been waiting downstairs for a long time, watching the students running down one after another. "Hunt until the timer in your hand shows it is 6 o'clock. He frowned and looked at the team lined up in front of him. "Where is Chen Qiun?" Sulinur first glanced at Zhang Lingzi, who was standing next to her as straight as a green pine but silent. She pursed her lips and raised her hand. "Tell Coach Qi, Teacher Chen may have forgotten to set the alarm clock before going to bed. I'll go up and call him her. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry." Author, Press 11. Chapter 752. Chen Qiun was woken up by the sound of knocking on the door, and he had a bad premonition as soon as he opened his eyes. I grabbed my phone on the bedside table and turned on the screen. It was 6:08. Suddenly, everything went dark. She clearly set the alarm clock before going to bed last night. It was either she was too tired from training yesterday or the bed was too comfortable to sleep on, which made her sleep so deeply. Without thinking too much, Raul hurriedly got up and packed up. By the time he went out, more than 10 minutes had passed. He didn't even have time to comb his hair, so he had to grab a hat and put it on. Opening the door, she saw Solinar, who was still waiting for her outside. "Linar, I." Solinar grabbed her wrist and ran downstairs. "Go and join the main force first." Chen Qiun was pulled by her and ran all the way downstairs. When he heard Solinar's violent breathing, he couldn't help but be moved beyond words. "I set the alarm clock, but I didn't expect that I didn't hear it at all. I asked you to come up and call me again, waiting for me outside. Thank you, Linar, for taking so long." Solinar gasped for breath. "What's the matter? It's a rare opportunity to have such a close training. Isn't it right to help each other?" "That's what I say, but we are also competitors." Chen Qiun pursed her lips. She speculated that Solinar was probably ready to give up this competition as she said yesterday, so she felt that it didn't matter to help her competitor. Even if he didn't see Zhang Lingzi, he didn't even make any move to call her. "Then the only competitor I have today is Zhang Lingzi." After Solinar volunteered to wake up Chen Qiun, who had not yet come down, Qi Zhen did not lead the rest of the people to continue waiting downstairs, but directly led them all the way to the rubber track not far away. This is a standard 800-meter track. The passing mark here for boys is 3.5 minutes, and for girls is 4 minutes. It's the first morning run today, so I'll run 5 laps to get used to it. 5 laps equals 4,000 meters. Some of them start with a few kilometers every morning for their morning jogging exercise, and can easily accept 4 kilometers. But they did not miss what Coach Chi said to get used to it first. The 5 laps on the first day only took care of them since they started running on the first day. This care should not be taken care of later. When Zhang Lingzi finished 2 laps and started running the 3rd lap, she finally saw Solinar and Chen Qiun running towards the side holding hands. With one glance, she averted her eyes and continued running forward at a steady speed along the track. Qi Zhen saw the people coming over and waved his hand directly before they could speak. "Return to the team." Solinar still wanted to take a breath. Once on the runway, the two of them hurried to catch up with the large army. Chen Qiun looked at the figure in front of him who was running faster than the boy, took a deep breath, and quickened his pace again. After 5 laps, Zhang Lingzi stopped and walked slowly for a while before getting off the track and continuing to calm down her breathing. As she walked, she heard a gasping sound like a broken bellows coming from behind. Looking back, she saw Solinar holding her knees with her hands and her face turned red. She couldn't care less about maintaining her image and was panting heavily. She couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. If she remembered correctly, this girl seemed to have only run twice. Qi Zhen could see more clearly from outside the runway, but when he saw Solinar looking like she was about to faint in the next second, he moved his mouth but said nothing. Chen Qiun, on the other hand, was still working hard towards the 5-lap goal after everyone else had finished running and walked off the track. "After running 5 solid laps, I got off the track." By this time, everyone else had almost rested. Qi Zhen raised his hand and said, "Walk to the canteen." He had no intention of taking extra care of Chen Qiun, let alone because of being late. Solinar walked over and held Chen Qiun's arm with a concerned look on her face. "Teacher Chen." "I'm fine." Chen Qiun waved his hand towards her. "Don't call me Teacher Chen, just call me Qiun." Solinar was stunned for a moment, then smiled and nodded. "Okay, Qiun." The intimate look of the two people attracted many people's attention for a while. "I remember there was only one female racing driver in director Feng's movie, am I right?" "That's right, the heroine Shen Yongxiao." Then they leave aside the girls. Among the 11 options, they were left with at least 4 in the end. Although they are all young men of the same age, they will inevitably fight and fight after getting to know each other better. However, they also know that they are in a competitive relationship with each other, so they usually only spend time together with each other, and finally defeat others to win. Staying is the right thing to do. Sulinur and Chen Qiun, who seem to be almost sisters, are really a bit difficult to understand for them. Is the development of friendship between girls so magical? Zhang Lingzi's relationship with both of them is quite cold. I feel like this is normal, only one of the three people can stay. What's the use of building a good relationship? In the end, there won't be one more person left. Don't let the competition get fierce and the friendship break down. Then it will be exciting then. Feng Su looked at the morning exercise video he had just imported into his computer. When the screen turned to Chen Qiun and Sulinur, he frowned. On the surface, this picture indeed seemed harmonious, but he always felt it was strange. Chen Qiun is late today. Yes, we gathered at 6 o'clock. If we didn't come down to gather when the prescribed time was up, Sulinur volunteered and went back upstairs to wake her up. This Sulinur, Feng Su looked at the girl with a sweet smile on the screen, paused. She's quite helpful. After eating a simple yet nutritious and comprehensive breakfast, a new day of training is about to begin. Everyone lined up to hand over their mobile phones and got on the shuttle bus that was waiting at the door. After everyone got up, Qi Zhen started the car. From now on, your training mode will be to simulate and practice every day. The skills you learned in the simulated cockpit yesterday can be tried directly in the car today. It is best to try them all several times. Practice makes perfect. Don't worry about danger, your co-pilot will arrange an assistant coach to ensure your safety. Chen Qiun waited for him to finish speaking and then said, Coach Qi, I don't need an assistant coach. The assistant coach's level is not as high as her own. Qi Zhen nodded readily, no problem. At once, everyone's eyes turned to Chen Qiun. He is indeed a professional racing driver, he is so willful. Then a few people couldn't help but look at Zhang Lingzi again. Although Zhang Lingzi is undoubtedly the one with impeccable performance among the three, in terms of racing level alone, Chen Qiun is still too high. As for Sulinur, she is not as good as Chen Qiun in terms of racing skills and not as good as Zhang Lingzi in terms of physical fitness, so she is ignored by Huali. Sulinur secretly pinched her palms, raised her head and looked over with bright eyes. Qiun, you are so awesome. Chen Qiun was so dazzled by her adoring eyes that he responded without thinking, I'll go and take you after 2 laps later. Really, that's great, I've never been in a car driven by a professional driver. Chen Qiun felt a little regretful as soon as he agreed, but looking at Sulinur's extremely excited look, and thinking about how her current level could be improved even further, it couldn't be achieved by running 2 more laps, so she regretted it. The shots were scattered. Of course it's true. Zhang Lingzi was looking at a row of racing training cars parked not far ahead. When she heard the conversation next to her, she couldn't help but turn her head and glance at Chen Qiun. This girl is really a typical person who helps count the money after being sold. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 753. Just when Zhang Lingzi was sitting in the training car, and with the help of the assistant coach on the side, she was familiar with the operating facilities that were different from those in ordinary cars. She saw a white racing car soaring out of the window. Some people who had not yet had time to get on the bus whistled loudly at the rear of the vehicle. Handsome. Especially female racing drivers. Things are rare but precious, let alone in Huazhu. There are not even a few top female racing drivers in the world. Sulinur had just adjusted the seat to a suitable distance when she heard a few people discussing quietly outside the car window. Her face was tense under the helmet, and her cheerful smile was no longer the same. Although she has now successfully made Chen Qiun get up early and be late for morning practice, leaving a bad impression on the coach and director Feng for not being punctual, and she has also established a good relationship with Chen Qian, making the other party feel that she is no threat and will only focus on competing with Zhang Lingzi, but Chen Qian, her racing skills were real, and she couldn't think of a way to frustrate him at this point. Zhang Lingzi was even more frustrated. This person was simply insufferable and extremely vigilant. She suspected that the gift she sent to Zhang Lingzi was stuffed into a corner without even opening it. Otherwise it would be impossible to have no impact at all. And every time she wanted to get closer, the way the other person looked at her always made her feel like her mind was being read. I couldn't help but show my timidity before I even got close to him. How could she think of a way to get the opponent eliminated like this? The racing cars started one after another, and Qi Zhen could keep an overview of everyone's vehicle trajectories through high-speed cameras scattered on both sides of the road. There are also cameras inside the vehicle, allowing you to see the specific operations of the students. Although there is objectively no difference between racing a car and being in a simulated cockpit, there is still a big difference for the students themselves. In the simulated cockpit, even if there is an accident such as a car crash, you still know in the back of your mind that you will not be in danger, so you will naturally act boldly. But now in a racing car, even if the assistant coach is sitting next to him, there are certain uncontrollable dangers. The subconscious crisis in the brain is activated, and it is impossible to be as bold as in the simulation. At a glance, there are quite a few people who obviously perform well in simulated driving, but they start to rush around in the real car. They also move cautiously when speeding up and turning, for fear of danger. After adjusting to the channel that Xiaoyu was on, Qi Zhen's brows relaxed as he watched. From yesterday to now, this boy can barely satisfy him. Although there are still some minor mistakes, considering that it is the first time to get on the bus, it can be forgiven. After exiting the channel, Qi Zhen took a deep breath before clicking on Zhang Lingzi's channel. Yesterday this girl gave him a big surprise. She performed well in both simulated driving and physical fitness tests, and she also had a perfect personality. But he was also afraid that this girl would encounter a Waterloo in actual operation. After all, he has seen many examples like this since he became a coach. He can ride on a simulated track, but then wilt when he gets to the real track. To be precise, he lacks courage. But in racing, this courage is the most important thing. Not to mention that this is a girl. Lao Chen, how are you doing? Assistant coach Lao Chen, who was sitting in the co-pilot next to Zhang Lingzi, heard the inquiry coming from the earphones. After adjusting the conversation channel, he cleared his throat and said succinctly, "What a young man." Qi Zhen raised his eyebrows. The operation is very stable, and he is also very clever in timing. He is a big-hearted player. I think you can consider recruiting us to our club. After speaking, he added in a humorous tone, to alleviate the yang and yin decline of our club. Situation: Qi Zhen, don't even think about the following suggestions, I'm a big star. Well, okay, I just feel a little pity I haven't seen such an energetic child for a long time. Qi Zhen closed the call with Lao Chen and remained silent for a moment, watching Zhang Lingzi's operations and the trajectory of her racing car on the screen. There happened to be a white racing car coming from the inside when she was just turning the corner. She had to react and operate quickly enough to avoid the two cars from colliding. On the screen, Lao Chen was ready to take over, but he was still one step behind Zhang Lingzi. The accelerator was pressed to the bottom and then slightly released, and the steering wheel turned sharply. At the moment when the two cars were about to collide head to tail, the car in front quickly turned into the next corner, successfully widening the distance between the two cars. Pretty. Lao Chen and Qi Zhen shouted at the same time. After shouting, Qi Zhen subconsciously looked at the monitor worn by Zhang Lingzi. The heart rate fluctuated around 90, but never reached 100 from beginning to end. In response to what Lao Chen just said, he is a player with a big heart. You must know that it is normal for the heart rate to soar to 134 in a tense moment like the one just caught off guard. At this time, let alone Lao Chen, even he felt a little regretful. Everyone has become a big star, so he can no longer change his profession and become a racing driver who travels with danger. Chen Qiun has already obtained the professional racing driver certification and plunged into the entertainment industry. Now even his racing skills are gradually being abandoned. In the car behind. Seeing the car driven by Zhang Lingzi turn into the next corner at the critical moment, Chen Qiun's lips suddenly tightened into a straight line. It would be fine if it were the assistant coach's operation, but if it were Zhang Lingzi's own operation, no, it's absolutely impossible. It is impossible for a person who has just started learning racing to have such fast reaction speed and stable operation. It must be the credit of the assistant coach. Thinking of this, Chen Qiun's expression softened, but not much. She originally thought that even with the assistant coach here, she could use these two close corners to overtake Zhang Lingzi and keep her behind. Reality slapped her hard. Originally, she planned to take Sulina with her after just 2 laps, but this would be so irritating that she simply forgot about her previous promise and only thought about successfully surpassing Zhang Lingzi once. Sulina waited, and could only watch helplessly as Chen Qiun drove the white racing car around and around the track, passing her car again and again, showing no sign of stopping, and her face was filled with tears. I was almost mad, but fortunately there was a helmet to protect me. Lao Chen was really happy to see Hunter this time. Originally, he only planned to give hints or assistance when the students made mistakes or couldn't perform the operation correctly, but it turned out that he was not needed at all in this regard. As there was really no use for him, he simply taught some additional skills that could only be experienced in the real competition field. Little tricks that can only be discovered through experience. I was even more happy when I discovered that the student I was in charge of was able to master and appropriately use the skills I transmitted after a few bold practices. Having a student who knows everything, it feels so good to be a coach. End of chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 754. After a morning of practical lessons, everyone stumbled at the beginning, and then everyone was able to run a lap on the track alone. Those who have made rapid progress, such as Zhang Lingzi and Xiao Yu, can already try to chase each other in a game. When it was announced that get out of class was over, everyone was still reluctant to leave. This practical class is much more exciting and interesting than the theoretical class. Even the simulated driving class that seemed so new yesterday cannot compare to it. Yun. As soon as Chen Qiun got off the car, she heard Sulina calling her, and her face couldn't help but stiffen. She had forgotten about bringing Sulina. Liner, I'm sorry, I tend to forget myself when I'm on the road. I just thought about practicing driving and forgot to. It's okay, Sulina waved her hand quickly before she finished speaking. It doesn't matter, I have an assistant coach with me. It's more important for you to practice driving by yourself. Looking at Sulina being so considerate, Chen Qiun suddenly felt a little more guilty. Next time for sure. Then I've written it down. I won't forget it next time. Qi Zhen was walking towards Zhang Lingzi who had just got off the car. Passing by Chen Qiun and Sulina, he paused when he heard the conversation between the two. Chen Qiun. Here, what's wrong, Coach Qi? Qi Zhen looked at her seriously, his tone was more stern, and he said straightforwardly, I took the time to watch the videos of your previous competitions abroad while eating in the morning, and then look at your performance this morning. The regression is not ordinary. Chen Qiun's face suddenly turned red. Especially when he noticed the glances from around him, he felt even more embarrassed. I have indeed lost a lot of time to practice driving because of filming. Please rest assured, Coach Qi, I will work hard to get back to my previous level. Well, if you can become a professional racing driver, it shows that you have the talent and you really like this sport. Don't waste your original efforts when you finally get the results. Qi Zhen left after saying this. Chen Qiun stood there with his head lowered, making it difficult to see what he was thinking. Solinar watched Qi Zhen walk up to Zhang Lingzi. The seriousness on his face was like ice melting, and she couldn't help but tighten her hands in her pockets. Yun, do you think Coach Qi's attitude towards Teacher Zhang means that Teacher Zhang is very talented? Director Feng is so discerning. At first, I thought he was seeing Teacher Jiang's current popularity, huh? Solinar said, realizing that she had said the wrong thing and quickly covered her mouth. But Chen Qiun didn't care to pay attention to her little movements. He raised his head and looked in the direction of Zhang Lingzi. Coach Qi, who had been sternly warning her about her declining skills just now stood in front of Zhang Lingzi with a smile on his face. He was too far away to hear what they said, but looking at the atmosphere, it was impossible to criticize him. Let's go. She really should try harder. If she, a professional racing driver, was overtaken by a novice like Zhang Lingzi and managed to get the role of director, she would be embarrassed just thinking about it. Solinar frowned as she looked at Chen Qiun's back as he strode away, feeling that her stimulation might have had the opposite effect. But she couldn't go too far. Chen Qiun was relatively innocent, but he was not a fool. If he noticed her instigation, he would really be finished. I had no choice but to stomp my feet and run to catch up. There is still a half-hour break after lunch. Everyone was preparing to go back to the dormitory to rest, but Chen Qiun walked up to Qi Zhen. Coach Qi, I'm going to practice for another half-hour. Qi Zhen didn't ask any more questions and just handed over the car keys. Thank you, Coach Qi. Chen Qiun took the car keys, thanked him and turned around to leave. When Solinar sent the dinner plate to the recycling place, she turned around and couldn't see Chen Qiun's shadow. After learning that Chen Qiun asked Coach Qi for the car keys to practice driving alone without going back to the dormitory for a lunch break, his face turned ugly for a moment. Turning around, he saw Zhang Lingzi about to walk out of the restaurant. He quickly chased her and shouted, "Teacher Zhang, wait for me." Zhang Lingzi. This girl really doesn't stop. Her pace did not slow down, but Solinar still ran all the way to catch up. Yun is working too hard, and now he doesn't even miss his lunch break. What do you think, Teacher Zhang? I feel very good. Well, I won't have enough energy to take the theory class in the afternoon. You care about her so much. Solinar nodded subconsciously, and halfway through, she met Zhang Lingzi's smiling eyes. Zhang, Teacher Zhang. There is something I have wanted to tell you for a long time. What are you talking about, Teacher Zhang? You are so serious all of a sudden. I'm a little nervous. Don't put your petty thoughts on me also, you are very noisy. After Zhang Lingzi finished speaking, she glanced at Solinar's almost split expression, then turned around and left. Solinar stood there for a long time. She turned around and saw that Zhang Lingzi had gone far away and was out of sight. She gritted her teeth and squeezed out 3 words, Zhang Lingzi. When she thought that her performance for the past day and a half was like a clown performing a comedy in Zhang Lingzi's eyes, she felt ashamed and resentful. Why don't there be some accidents during the practical operation? When Solinar cursed secretly and walked away angrily, a chuckle came from behind the wall not far away. Xiao Yu looked up at the direction Zhang Lingzi left, raised his hand and pressed his heart, which was beating inexplicably fast. When he first entered the entertainment industry, all he saw were faces that were impeccably disguised on the surface. The beautiful masks were almost thicker than the last. After getting along with them for a long time, he found them quite boring. Unexpectedly, being selected by Director Feng for closed training this time was a big surprise for him. You are noisy. Ha ha ha. It's so interesting. After saying what she wanted to say in front of him, Zhang Lingzi suddenly felt a lot quieter in her ears. Although Solinar is a cautious person, She is still quite sensible. I can no longer hear the pretentious teacher Zhang, and the air around me becomes fresher. But as soon as Solinar calmed down, someone else came over. However, the person who came up behind him was much more measured than Solinar. He usually only communicated with her about his learning achievements and then competed with her on the track in a racing car, which would not make her feel annoying. Sister 11, I heard from Coach Chi that you also got full marks in night mode. Do you want to compare your skills? Okay, see you after dinner. Xiao Yu was immediately in high spirits and immersed himself in eating. Until he was tapped on the shoulder. Hey, kid, have you forgotten that teacher Zhang is already married, and her marriage certificate is openly posted on the internet? Xiao Yu swallowed the rice in his mouth, took another sip of soup, smiled and patted back the way he came. What are you thinking about? Of course I know that Sister 11 is married. I don't want to compete with you. I remember correctly that I just passed the night mode, so it's not that challenging in comparison. What a personal attack, but there is no way to refute it. End of chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 755. Although it was just a private competition agreed between Zhang Lingzi and Xiao Yu, everyone after the meal came to watch the competition. Even Qi Zhen and Feng Su were not left behind. Li and Sui Daliu followed. Chen Qiun was actually a little moved, but as a professional racing driver she was competing against two people who had just learned racing for a few days, and she always felt like she was bullying them. Even though she moved her mouth, she still didn't say that she wanted to join the competition. Solinar stood next to Chen Qiun, taking advantage of the dim light to hide her expression. Her eyes shone strangely, and her eyes turned around and around Zhang Lingzi, who was checking the racing suit. It's only been a week since I learned it, and I actually dared to challenge night racing. I don't know if it's because I'm an expert, but I'm just too bold. It is best to do the latter. It would be better to have something unexpected happen in the dark. Qi Zhen walked up to the two people who had checked their racing suits and were about to get into the car. Among the 14 students, except for Chen Qiun who had a certain foundation, he was most optimistic about the two in front of him. Progress rapidly, have strong psychological quality, agile hands and feet, and good physical fitness. Regardless of how director Feng chooses the actors he feels are suitable in the end, he looks at the two of them now as if they were rising stars. Racing at night is much more dangerous than during the day. Even if you get full marks in the simulated driving, it doesn't matter. You are still young and have only a short time to practice. You must remember safety first. If you feel that it is not possible, just turn on the lights and stop without any shame. Zhang Lingzi and Xiao Yu nodded to him, opened the door and got in the car in sync. Qi Zhen personally waved the flag to signify the start of the game. The two racing cars, one black and one red, shot out like arrows from the string. Qi Zhen. I hope his words did not fall on deaf ears. After the car's tail lights disappeared from sight, everyone could only watch the large screen on the side to capture the trajectories of the two cars. The high-speed camera did its job to capture the two cars passing by at high speed. Everyone looked at two lights and shadows, one black and one red, chasing each other. It was even more exciting when turning corners. Twice they even seemed to have collided. Unknowingly, their hearts were racing and their adrenaline was soaring. Chen Qiun raised his head and looked at the red car on the screen that passed two turns in a row with beautiful and neat movements. His breathing became heavier and his fingers clenched into fists at his side. Had she not watched Zhang Lingzi learn the car step by step from a beginner, her initial familiarity with the car didn't look fake. Looking at this game alone, it would have been hard for her to believe that the opponent's car had only been learned for a few days. But the reality presented on the screen made her have to believe that it was true. She has not formally competed with Zhang Lingzi, mainly because she can't pull off the shame, and the other party has not taken the initiative to compete with her. If you join this time, Are you really 100% sure you can beat Zhang Lingzi? After realizing his uncertainty, Chen Qiun felt his heart tighten. She was not 100% sure of defeating Zhang Lingzi. She was a professional racing driver, but she would be timid in front of a beginner. Ah, it hit. Sulinner's small exclamation came from the side. Chen Qiun didn't notice the excitement in the other person's tone and quickly looked at the screen. They did collide, but it looked like the black car hit the red car. The next second Coach Chi's voice sounded, Xiao Yu is still a little impatient. It was not Zhang Lingzi's mistake. However, the two cars that collided did not stop after they stabilized themselves. Instead, they quickly checked that their functions were normal and continued to accelerate forward. In the end, the red car driven by Zhang Lingzi arrived at the finish line one car body ahead. Xiao Yu didn't even have time to take off his helmet after he parked the car. He opened the door and got out of the car, then quickly ran forward, Sister 11. Zhang Lingzi had just taken off her helmet, pushed the sweaty hair on the side of her face behind her ears, and turned her head when she heard the sound. Xiao Yu's breath was stagnant, and he also paused on his feet. After pulling off his helmet, he ignored the hair sticking to his forehead and asked urgently, Sister 11, are you okay? The competition was proposed by himself. During the competition, he accidentally bumped into someone in a moment of impatience. If he hurt someone, he would not be able to forgive himself even if he thought about it. Fine. Hearing this answer, Xiao Yu finally took off his breath, and his feet went weak and he almost knelt down. God knows how panicked he felt during the drive after the collision. Seeing him like this, Zhang Lingzi subconsciously stretched out her hand to help him, wrinkled her nose, and looked at Xiao Yu's face through the light. You have a nosebleed. Xiao Yu stretched out his hand and said, Haha, I thought it was sweat. Zhang Lingzi. Hearing that Xiao Yu had a nosebleed, everyone, led by Qi Zhen and Feng Su, immediately cheered and surrounded him. Both of you, come with me to the infirmary and get checked out. Qi Zhen handed the tissue to Xiao Yu and said, stop it first. A nosebleed should be caused by the shock. Plus, you're nervous, so don't be afraid. Xiao Yu covered his nose with a tissue and shook his head. It didn't matter if he left some blood, as long as he didn't hurt Sister 11 because of his recklessness. Sulinner stood where she was and didn't move. Ever since Zhang Lingzi exposed her inner thoughts directly, she no longer approached Zhang Lingzi to avoid humiliating herself. At this moment, while everyone else was approaching, she looked at the photo she had just taken on her phone. It happened to be that Xiao Yu almost knelt down and Zhang Lingzi went to help him. A matter of angle, the presentation in the photo is much more ambiguous and intimate than the real situation. She didn't know what her psychology was, so she subconsciously took a picture. Before rushing everyone back, she quickly uploaded the photo to the cloud, clicked delete, and then put the phone back in her pocket. Zhang Lingzi and Xiao Yu were taken to the medical room by Qi Zhen. Feng Su dismissed the others with a wave of his hand and followed them. Chen Qiun returned to the dormitory door in silence all the way. When he heard the door opening next door, he turned and looked over. Linner. Sulinner was still a little weak and almost jumped up when she heard the sound. What's wrong? Chen Qiun pulled out a smile that was uglier than crying. Linner, do you feel that today's competition is quite like a plot in the script? Sulinner still didn't react. Huh. That's the part where the male protagonist Ji Yueguang doesn't believe in Shen Yongxiao's racing skills and competes with her. Sulinner was still thinking about it. She had read the script hastily before coming here, and after so many days, she had almost forgotten about it. Chen Qiun looked at this expression and knew that he was afraid that he was talking to a chicken. He waved his hand helplessly. It's okay, go to bed early. She had to think carefully about whether to give up or grit her teeth and try harder. As for Sulinner, she's just dawdling. Zhang Lingzi stayed in the medical room for half an hour, and was released after making sure there were no scratches or hidden injuries on her body. It also caused Qi Zhen to take her helmet and look at it carefully. When returning it, his eyes fell on the racing suit she was wearing, and he couldn't help but ask, "Where did you buy this outfit?" "I don't know, my partner prepared it for me." Qi Zhen. There is still dog food to eat this late at night? End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 756. Xiao Yu came out of the examination room with a cotton ball stuffed in his nose and a cool patch on his forehead. Hearing these words, he subconsciously glanced at Zhang Lingzi. He has noticed a long time ago that their racing suits and helmets and other protective equipment are all provided by the training venue. Only Chen Qiun and Zhang Lingzi's are different, they bring their own. However, Chen Qiun was a professional racing driver before, so it is normal to have his own equipment. As a beginner, Zhang Lingzi is well equipped. Now I know that Mr. Shen prepared it for his wife. This carefulness and meticulousness. Suddenly he understood why the person in front of him could show off his marriage certificate so openly. After sending Zhang Lingzi away, Qi Zhen looked back at Xiao Yu, who was standing there with his head slightly lowered and not knowing what he was thinking. How is it? Has the nosebleed stopped? Is there anything else that feels uncomfortable? Don't be too troublesome and be honest. Tell the truth. Xiao Yu came back to his senses, touched the cool patch on his forehead that was continuously cooling him, and shook his head. There is nothing uncomfortable anymore. Thank you Coach Qi for your concern. That's good. Qi Zhen patted him on the shoulder. It's getting late, go back and rest. Since there's nothing else, I'll do your morning exercise at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning as usual. I originally wanted to give you a morning off. Xiao Yu. Can he still withdraw his answer and answer it again? Asterisk. After such a hard time, Zhang Lingzi returned to the dormitory and checked the time. She didn't wash up and dialed the video to Shen Yunqing first. The other side was connected within 5 seconds. You shouldn't just be sitting next to your phone, you answer it so quickly. Just getting ready to charge, today's training ended a little late. Shen Yunqing unplugged the phone's charging cable again, raised it in front of her, looked at the screen and stared at it. You haven't washed up yet? Zhang Lingzi casually grabbed her sweaty and then dry hair, and unbuttoned the collar with one hand. I just came back, and I just competed with others. I guess it's time. I'll call you early. Game at night. Night mode, it must be played at night also. I won. The expression is cheerful and proud. Shen Yunqing saw her like this and didn't know what to say. She was silent for 2 seconds and then said helplessly, there was no accident or injury, right? Well, Zhang Lingzi hesitated for a moment before deciding to tell the truth. After all, the game video is still there, and maybe the person opposite will see it at some point. It was a small bump, but I'm wearing it and you give it to me. The racing suit and helmet were prepared, nothing happened. Shen Yunqing resisted the urge to drive over and see the real person with his own eyes. He watched the people in the video jumping around in circles, and then he suppressed his emotions and said softly, it's getting late, Your Majesty, go wash up and get some rest early. Zhang Lingzi covered her mouth and yawned, blinking the tears that squeezed out from her eyes. I'm really a little tired today, so I'll hang up and you should go to bed early. After she hung up the video, she ran to the bathroom to wash up without any psychological burden. However, Shen Yunqing held her phone and leaned on the bedside to meditate for a long time before turning off the lights and lying down to rest. Asterisk. Invest in movies. After Hezu was stunned for a moment, when he came back to his senses, he felt like this day has really come. His wife is currently working hard in the entertainment industry and has no plans to quit the industry. If the boss wants to protect her in the future, investment is the most direct and effective way. It's not a direct investment in the movie, Shen Yunqing corrected. The movie The Wind directed by Feng is about racing, and it is much more dangerous to shoot than ordinary movies, so all the investment this time will be used to ensure the safety of crew members. It can be used to purchase safety equipment, invite safety instructors, etc. Does that make sense? Hizhu. To be honest, this is the first time he has heard of this investment method. But coming from my boss's mouth, it seems normal. He can even think about it further back. If the boss wife makes a police movie in the future, the boss's investment should be to equip the entire crew with a body armor. If he makes a fairy movie, he will probably contract a coercion machine. Got it? Mainly providing considerate and personal protection. Ming, understand. Then let's contact the relevant equipment vendors first. Once the candidate is confirmed, we will contact him as soon as possible. Hizhu was reminded like this and then remembered that the boss lady was still in the closed training stage, and the director was still not sure that he would choose the boss lady. Here, should we wait until the role is confirmed before contacting us? If this is not selected, there should be no need to invest. No, go get in touch. Hizhu decisively stopped trying to persuade him and turned around to go out to do some work. But that didn't stop him from sighing silently in his heart. The boss really has confidence in his wife. Zhang Lingzi still didn't know what Shen Yunqing was doing secretly behind her back. After all, the training days were quite busy, and the two of them only had time to watch each other talk on video before going to bed at night. And as the training time increases, the gap between everyone will also widen. Some people have already had a premonition that they are likely to be eliminated, and their initial enthusiasm will naturally diminish. Although he still does various training seriously with everyone on a daily basis, other people training together and even Coach Qi and others can notice the feeling of gradually lying down. Qi Zhen wouldn't say much to those who were already planning to give up on the competition. They would still be treated equally in basic training every day, but he would not take them to participate in additional special targeted training. Among all the people, Zhang Lingzi and Xiao Yu were the two who were punished the most. Everyone can see how Coach Qi treats the two of them differently. The most severe training means the most attention. Solinar always dreamed about what accident happened to Zhang Lingzi during training. Apart from this, she didn't dare to use any superficial tricks. Unfortunately, things backfired. Seeing that Zhang Lingzi received more attention than Chen Qiun, she was so jealous that her eyes turned red. It's not like she didn't encourage Chen Qiun secretly, but if the other person chooses to give up from the bottom of his heart first, it will be useless for her to encourage him. It's really useless. Solinar cursed secretly, not only at Chen Qiun, but also at herself for showing timidity when she saw Zhang Lingzi. As the weather gets warmer day by day, everyone is looking at the training plan posted on the wall of the dormitory. The check marks on it mean that more and more courses have been completed day by day. Before you know it, there is not much blank space left. This also means that the final choice is coming. However, Zhang Lingzi and Xiao Yu no longer simply trained according to the training plan. The subsequent physical classes were mostly changed to practical exercises, and the two competed every 2 days. Even when Qi Zhen got interested, he even stopped playing several times in person. The racing cars roared and reached the finish line almost at the same time. Qi Zhen looked at the results and looked up at the two people who came out of the car. Not bad, there is a little progress. Your director Feng asked you two to go to the activity room after the competition. Faster, go ahead and come back to review after you're done. After saying that, he waved away. Zhang Lingzi and Xiao Yu took off their helmets and looked at each other, and they both guessed what this time meant. Although this is the tacit result, after all, after training for so many days, there is still a sense of ritual. The two rushed to the activity room where they had gathered on the first day, and saw Director Feng and 12 other people already waiting inside. "Come on, I'm waiting for you too," Feng Su waved. "Sit down, let's watch a piece of my homemade VCR first." End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 757. The VCR is full of training clips from all of them during this period. Morning jogging on the track before dawn. Sweat in the physical training room. Driving a racing car and chasing each other on the track. There are also students taking careful notes in class in the multimedia room, and there are quizzes every few days. Some people are scratching their heads because they can't think of an answer. Some people couldn't help but laugh when they saw this, but they couldn't help but have red eyes when they smiled. After experiencing this experience, even if they are eliminated in the end, they will still feel regretful, but they will not regret their efforts during this period. After the VCR finished playing, Feng Su gave everyone a short moment to calm down, then he clapped his hands and said, "Actually, you have made great progress during this period. Although I am not like Coach Chi, I am always with you. But I have seen your performance until now, and you are all qualified in my heart. Sister 11 and Xiao, you are excellent." Feng Su looked at the person who answered the call, smiled and nodded, "Yes, sometimes just passing the test is not enough. Competition has always been cruel, so among you, the one who can finally star in the wind." He stretched out his finger, only 5 people. Even though they had been mentally prepared for his departure, at this moment, everyone still couldn't help but breathe a little faster, and the atmosphere in the entire activity room also became tense. Feng Su raised his eyes and glanced at Zhang Lingzi, who was sitting at the back because she was the last to arrive. This girl was the calmest among them all. "Then I'll read the names directly: Zhang Lingzi, Xiao Yu." Chen Qiun's shoulders sank a little, and he didn't continue to listen to the name behind him, and it was no longer important. He only looked back at Zhang Lingzi, who was sitting behind him. At this glance, I saw a pair of eyes that were still calm and indifferent, as if they had already regarded this result as something in their bag, and were confident and sure, and I couldn't help but smile bitterly. She really lost this competition completely. However, you must be able to afford to lose. Congratulations, Shen Yongxiao. Zhang Lingzi met Chen Qiun's eyes and said, "Thank you." Chen Qiun stood up and was about to leave. When he was about to pass by Zhang Lingzi, he paused again. "You really didn't know who I was at the beginning." "Zhang Lingzi, I really don't know. I wonder if I won't know when I come." Chen Qiun. "This is the truth, but weren't you curious at all beforehand?" She was speechless by this answer. Solinar was originally going to leave. Since she was not selected, there was no need to stay. When she left, she was going to notify her assistant to come pick her up and pack her luggage. She has been really annoyed that she has been living by herself for nearly a month and has no one to help her clean up. But after seeing Zhang Lingzi and Chen Qiun gathering together to whisper, she couldn't help but feel flustered and her steps slowed down. Just when she was hesitating whether to get closer and listen, Zhang Lingzi's gaze fixed her on the spot. "For the sake of sincerely congratulating me just now, let me give you a heads up." Zhang Lingzi looked at Solinar, who was standing there with a surprised expression, and called out to Chen Qiun, who was about to leave, "This is a gift from Solinar. Aromatherapy, if you can, don't use it. You." Chen Qiun suddenly turned his head and looked over. Although he and Zhang Lingzi didn't deal with each other very much, they had been getting along day and night for almost a month. They also knew that Zhang Lingzi's mouth was as vicious as it was harsh. Since he said this, it couldn't be without purpose. Thinking of this, she swallowed back the words she almost blurted out, took a deep breath to suppress the doubts that started to surge in her heart. "Thank you for reminding me." "You're welcome." Solinar saw Chen Qiun going out and quickly followed him out, running to catch up with him. Then she asked as if unintentionally, Kyun, what did you just say to teacher Jang? Nothing, I just said congratulations to her. Soliner pursed her lips. Hey, let's go with him for a month. If I had accepted another director's offer a month ago, I would have almost finished the project by now. Had she said this before, Chen Kyun would have just complained as if she felt a little regretful. But after Zhang Lingzi's reminder just now, and then hearing Soliner's words, Chen Kyun suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. I think it's quite meaningful. Although I failed in the competition, it is not without gain. My racing skills have improved. I see that not only your racing skills are much better than at the beginning, but your physical fitness has also improved a lot. It may not be useless in the future. Haha, Soliner laughed dryly, that makes sense, haha. I just feel that if I had chosen another path, the rewards would have been greater. It's nothing unexpected. By the way, have you informed your agent and assistant? I remember you said that your assistant drove you here. I do have a car, but we are not traveling together, so I'm afraid I won't be able to send you here. No, I'm just about to call the assistant. My room has been like a pig's nest this month. If the assistant doesn't come to help, I'm afraid I'll have to clean it up until the evening. Well, I'll leave first if I have something else to do later. I'll keep in touch in the future. Chen Kyun returned to the room and locked the door. He didn't rush to pack his luggage and went straight to the bedside table. There was a bottle of incense that she was used to smelling that had evaporated almost half of it. She doesn't use everything given by others. This fragrance is a well-known brand. Such a small bottle is not cheap. It is brand new and unopened, so she uses it directly. But Zhang Lingzi asked her not to use this aromatherapy. Is there really something wrong with it? At last, she wrapped the remaining half bottle of aromatherapy tightly and stuffed it deep into the suitcase. Let's go back and ask experts in this field. Chen Kyun pulled his suitcase through the corridor and glanced sideways as he passed Soliner's door without stopping. Soliner was lying on the bed and heard the sound of the wheels of the suitcase grinding on the ground outside, and paused without getting up. It was originally a plastic sisterhood, but now that the training is over, it has broken up. The 2 bottles of aromatherapy she had prepared so hard were all in vain. Those who were eliminated packed their bags and left, while those who stayed gathered together for a lunch that they could finally eat casually. After saying goodbye to Qi Zhen and Feng Su, they went back to their dormitories. But even if we say goodbye, we won't be apart for too long. We will go home and rest for a few days, and when we meet again, we will be on the set. Even the training ground where they are staying now will be one of the filming locations, and the dormitory can be kept for when they come back to film later. Zhang Lingzi returned to the dormitory and saw that Chen Kyun's dormitory was empty, but Soliner's dormitory next door was still being tidied up. After listening to the noise for a while, she simply took out the small gift that had been there for a month from the depths of the cabinet, walked to the next door and knocked on the door. Soliner was stunned when she opened the door and saw Zhang Lingzi standing outside. Your gift returns to its original owner. End of chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 758. Chapter 758, Still a student, there is a problem with aromatherapy. Soliner didn't know how she managed to close the door and isolate Zhang Lingzi while holding the unpacked aromatherapy. It wasn't until the assistant shouted several times that she finally came back to her senses and saw that there was still a lot of things on the bed that had not been cleaned up in time. Why are you so slow to clean up? Assistant. The assistant feels wronged. Don't even look at what has been done to the house in the past month. Even if a professional organizer comes to do it, it will take at least an hour or 2 to clean it up. Make it faster. She shivered in her heart when she thought that Zhang Lingzi was next door. Sister Liner, would you like to put this aromatherapy away too? I won't accept it. Soliner pushed the box in her hand into the assistant's hand, pour the liquid inside and flush it down the toilet, and throw the bottle directly into the trash can. Assistant. Haven't your own artists suffered from mental problems after being trained in isolation for a month? However, she only dared to whisper this quietly in her heart, and then she obeyed obediently. Who asked his artist to hold this unopened incense stick like a hot potato? Zhang Lingzi could guess that Suliner was probably panicking at this moment, but if you dare to do it, you have to dare to admit it. In the end, you are asking for it? Go back to your room, close the door, and dial the video skillfully. As for taking a bath, she planned to take a nap first, take her luggage and go home to wash, and take a nice hot bath at the same time. The dormitory did not have this condition. This was the first time in this month that Shen Yunqing received a video call from Zhang Lingzi during the day. After receiving the call, he saw the energetic face on the screen and immediately felt calm. Have you got the results after the training? That's right, I got the character. Congratulations. It's okay, easy, mainly because the opponent is too weak. As soon as he finished speaking, a sound of tea spraying came from the microphone. Zhang Lingzi's tone instantly turned serious. Is there anyone else next to you? Ahem, cough, 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 cough. Shen Qingzhou beat his chest and leaned in front of the phone camera to reveal half of his face. Cousin, it's me, it's okay, it's not an outsider. Zhang Lingzi smiled at him, and Shen Qingzhou immediately retracted his head and sat away politely. I took a break and packed up my luggage and went back. I have a few days to rest during the holidays. Well, I will go home as early as possible today. See you at home. When Zhang Lingzi got up from her sleep, she heard that the room next door had completely quieted down. After spending more than 10 minutes simply packing up the few items in the room, she pulled her suitcase downstairs. I happened to bump into Xiao Yu, who was playing basketball on the indoor basketball court. You won't go back? Xiao Yu dribbled to Zhang Lingzi, hugged the basketball and nodded. Well, I won't go back. I plan to practice with Coach Chi for a few more days. Anyway, I will live in the school dormitory when I go back, so I haven't lived in peace here yet. School dormitory. Well, I haven't graduated yet, I'm in my 3rd year. Xiao Yu felt a little secretly bitter when he introduced himself. Although he is not very famous, he is still somewhat famous, but the people in front of him really only know his name, and they have not even thought of checking his information on their mobile phones. Zhang Lingzi, come on. I will. Zhang Lingzi waved her hand and dragged her suitcase away. Xiao Yu stood there and watched her back disappear from sight, then turned around and threw the basketball in his hand towards the basket. The distance is a bit far, so as expected it was empty. Asterisk. Opening the door and getting into the car that had been away for a month, it took almost another quarter of an hour to get used to it, and finally get back the feeling of driving an ordinary car. Looking at the slow-moving traffic in front and behind me along the way, I had to restrain myself again and again in order to suppress my subconscious impulse to overtake. In the end, it was Tong Yu's call that distracted Zhang Lingzi. Zixi, have the results come out? How do you know? Chen Qiun sent an update and asked Zheng Zheng to get it. I guessed it. Out. And you? Pass. Tong Yu jumped on the spot holding her cell phone. After she was a little relieved, she said, if you don't even call me to inform me of such great news, you can just send me a message. I'm driving back to Z1. I originally planned to tell you when I get home. Back to Z1? Why are you going back? I was just about to tell Zheng Zheng and Yao Yao to rush to your side. Don't worry, Director Feng has given me a few days off. I'll go back to the set after I receive his notice in a few days. Director Feng is so considerate. You really should take a good rest. You have suffered a lot this month. Then I won't disturb you while driving. Just have a good rest when you get back. I'll go over to see you tomorrow and we'll meet again then. Chat. Good. Asterisk. Although Chen Qiun accepted the fact that she lost to Zhang Lingzi, her agent still couldn't accept it for a while. As Chen Qiun is a professional racing driver, this time he is fighting for the role of a racing driver. I thought he would be a sure winner without any suspense, but who would have thought that in the end he would be snatched away by a person who has never learned racing? Are you sure there is nothing shady here? Chen Qiun felt like his head was buzzing from the words. He covered his head and his voice collapsed. There's really nothing shady. If I could get the training video, I would have given it to you. Although I really don't want to admit it, Chen Qiun raised his head to face his agent's almost black face and sighed heavily, but Zhang Lingzi is really strong. The two looked at each other in silence for nearly a minute before the manager raised his hand to wipe his face and sat back on the sofa in a dejected manner. In fact, he also knew that the possibility of a shady story was very small. After all, Feng Su was so famous that he even spent huge sums of money to book a venue and hire a coach, just to train and select actors in the early stage of filming the movie, and was coerced by capital. The possibility is really pitiful. But, isn't this really unacceptable? So, you have no hope of participating in the new movie? What a great opportunity, it is tailor-made for you. Why is there an extra Zhang Lingzi? Chen Qiun lowered his head and waited until he finished sighing before whispering, I am also responsible for not being selected this time. We are too conceited. We should not have had the mentality that Director Feng could only choose me. And Qi Zhen said, my racing skills have deteriorated greatly since I returned to China and I have been busy filming and doing variety shows, so I have really lost a lot of time to practice driving. Now the agent had nothing to say. By the way, find someone who studies aromatherapy, Chen Qiun said, handing over the tightly wrapped half bottle of aromatherapy. Help me see if there is anything wrong with this aromatherapy. Okay, but where did you get this? Solinar gave it to me when we first met at the training base before coming back. Zhang Lingzi reminded me that it's best not to use this thing. What? The agent looked a little confused, and finally managed to figure out what he was saying. Zhang Lingzi reminded you not to use the things Solinar gave you. Chen Qiun said with a somewhat complicated tone, she probably wanted to tell me that there was something wrong with the aromatherapy, but I didn't notice anything wrong after using it for a month, and I didn't feel any discomfort in my body. But I don't think Zhang Lingzi said this on purpose. Just to scare me. This kind of thing usually has a subtle influence, so she waited for you to use it for a month before reminding you. She had no obligation to remind me. Besides, we are in a competitive relationship this month. Have you ever seen anyone help a competitor? I can only blame myself for not being cautious enough. Chen Qiun smacked his lips as he spoke. If not after the candidate was confirmed, I said congratulations to her, but I guess she didn't even bother to remind me. Agent, I'd better go find a perfumer I know. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 759. Chapter 759. Z1 also became lively when people came back. Zixi, you're back. Zhang Lingzi spread her arms and hugged Suyin, who looked at her with surprise. Grandma, our closed training is over. Are you tired? I see you're a little thin. Fortunately, I'm not too tired. It's not that I'm thin, but my flesh is stronger. Mom asked me to make Qingtuan. Do you want to eat it? Of course I want to eat, but I want to take a shower first. I've been sweating all morning. Then go and wash it quickly. I'll take the green dumplings out of the refrigerator first and make bean paste, egg yolk, and sesame. Which one do you like? Then, let's have the same one. No problem. Watching Suyin happily preparing for food, Zhang Lingzi waited for Xiaji, who was walking behind to help her with her suitcase. My little grandma is much more cheerful than when she first came to Z1. Xiaoji hurriedly answered. Grandma of the Gao family stayed with MRSU in Z1 for a while, and then the mother and daughter went home for 2 days. It should be because they had relatives with them and returned to the place they were familiar with when they were children. That's why. But MRSU doesn't usually talk much. She said so much this time, probably because she likes His Majesty. Zhang Lingzi nodded in agreement. She is so lovable. After washing her hair and taking a bath for half an hour, when Zhang Lingzi came out relaxed and comfortable in her home clothes, she saw not only Suyin sitting in the tea house outside with the green dumplings waiting for her to come out to taste, but Shen Yunqing was also there. Come back so early. Send someone away and then come back. As the spring days get warmer, the small red clay stove used to boil water and make tea is put into the warehouse and replaced by an induction cooker with more comprehensive functions. The sound of boiling water sounded. Shen Yunqing picked up the kettle and poured water into the tea set that had been prepared. Grandma brought Qingtuan here. Should it be paired with green tea or Longjing? Zhang Lingzi tightened his collar and sat down on the chair next to Suyin. He glanced at the plump little dumplings on the plate on the table and said, "Let's go to Longjing." Soon the aroma of tea filled the air. "Zixi, try it quickly." "Okay, little grandma will eat it too." I ate several of them as soon as I made them, but now I don't want to eat them. I drank the tea made by Yunqing. It was very fragrant, but the tea made by Sheng Sheng was not as fragrant. Zhang Lingzi pinched a green ball and looked at Shen Yunqing after hearing this, and both of them smiled. "Grandma, let's have tea Yunqing and I will round out this plate of green dumplings." "You can eat." "Is there still little grandpa?" "Yes, I have done a lot." Green dumplings are served with tea. The slight bitterness of the tea just balances out the sweetness of the green dumplings. Zhang Lingzi ate 2 of them in one go before stopping. "It's delicious." Suyin drank a cup of tea and then got up and went back to the yard next door. Even though her thinking is simple and straightforward, she also knows that the niece and nephew-in-law must have a lot of thoughtful things to say after they have been separated for so long, so she doesn't want to be a light bulb all the time. "Don't really finish it, it's not easy to digest, and you'll have dinner later." Zhang Lingzi just picked up a youth league. This is the last one. The meals arranged by the training base are too light. I have been eating for a month. I just had a hearty meal at noon today. How about boiled fish in the evening? Shen Yunqing pulled the plate in front of him without leaving a trace. "Okay. The surveillance is over. I also noticed that the guard at the base was changed more than 10 days ago, so I guess that they had withdrawn. How is Yuzhong now?" "It's still shutting down for rectification. Grandpa plans to send someone to buy it when Zhongpeng can't survive anymore and prepares to sell it. Whether it's acquired or not, Yuzhong still has a few viable products, as well as my grandpa's hard work. It would be a pity to destroy them all." "Do you think Wei Ke will have realized that we borrowed his products, Hand?" Shen Yunqing raised his eyes and met a pair of cunning eyes. "I guess he already knows." Zhang Lingzi spread her hands, "But there's nothing we can do about it." Wyke, are you polite? Wuju, did you say anything after entering the longevity project? That's not true. While the project is ongoing, all participants should be isolated from the outside world. Okay, I can understand it. After all, it is such a rare Taisui. Some people want to try whether they can use it to extend life, cure diseases, and even dream of immortality. There is something else that may interest your Majesty. What's up? Zhang Lingzhou was detained for intentionally injuring others. Who did he hurt? Wait, Zhang Lingzi suddenly thought of what Su Ling'an told her about the trouble caused by Zhang's family during the Chinese New Year. It couldn't be his half-brother, right? Zhang Lingzi. Her guess was indeed right. Even if she didn't have to do it herself, the whole family would be finished by herself. Seeing that it was time for dinner, Xiaoji looked at the two people sitting at the tea table who were still talking animatedly, and could only cough lightly. Your Majesty, sir, it's time for dinner. Zhang Lingzi looked back and asked, is the little grandpa back? I'm back. Then let me change my clothes and go have dinner with my grandpa and grandma. Zhang Sishan already knew from his wife that Zhang Lingzi had returned to Ziwan, but even if his wife didn't tell him, he could still detect that the atmosphere in Ziwan had changed. In the past, when my great niece was away, Ziwan was quiet and peaceful, but like windless water. Until he came back from work today, he felt ripples on the water, and the atmosphere in Ziwan became vivid. This experience also made him realize that Zhang Lingzi was the soul of this large manor. As long as she is here, there is meaning of existence here. Little grandpa, little grandma. Just as I was thinking about it, someone came. Zhang Lingzi looked at the large bowl of spicy boiled fish in front of her with satisfaction. She looked up and saw Suyin looking at her fish. Can little grandma eat spicy food? Suyin first looked at her husband, then waited for Zhang Sishan to nod helplessly. Yes, I'll just eat a little. Zhang Lingzi gave Suyin half a bowl of fish and vegetarian vegetables. Shen Yunqing and Grandpa couldn't eat such spicy food, so the rest was hers. Grandpa, how is your new company doing? It went pretty smoothly now that your parents are helping me. It saves a lot of effort. Has the product been made? Zhang Sishan paused slightly with his chopsticks, raised his eyes to meet a pair of bright eyes, smiled and shook his head. You don't need it. He could guess that his great niece asked about this because he wanted to help him promote it, but the biggest effect of the product developed this time was to lighten spots and remove scars, and this kid didn't do either of those things. You just need to make sure the product actually works. It's easy to use this time. Before Zhang Sishan could say anything, Suyin put down her chopsticks and handed her right hand over. I'm just using it. Sheng Sheng made it by herself. I once learned to cook and my hands were burned by oil. 11:11, look, there is nothing. My face is pale, and the ones I bought are not as good as those made by Sheng Sheng. Zhang Lingzi touched her hand and said, it's true that I can't see anything. Facing the eyes of his wife and grandniece, Zhang Sishan compromised, I'll bring you a few back tomorrow. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 760. Chapter 760, Can one play a role to become a god? The sweet fragrance lingers in the room. Zhang Lingzi walked to the incense burner and took a light sniff. Looking back at Shen Yunqing who was closing the door. Your butler Xia is so considerate. Shen Yunqing turned around and smelled the scent of incense, and her cold jade-like face was suddenly stained with a thin blush. Ahem, make your own decision. No, it's very popular with me. I have been dry for as long as I have gone out to train, not to mention that I am full and warm and thinking about other things. Now that I am beautiful and the atmosphere is just right, there is nothing to be reserved about. At first it was just a slight blush on the cheeks, but it soon spread to the corners of the eyes and lips, and continued to spread downwards. Your Majesty. A soft cry sounded in the ear, and soon it was drowned in the lips and teeth. The wind and rain suddenly rose outside the window, blowing red flowers all over the ground. Tong Yu arrived at Ziwan early in the morning, drank a cup of tea in the living room, and ate 2 green dumplings before finally waiting, wrapped in lazy home clothes. You could tell at a glance that she had just gotten up. Someone. Looking at the contentment shown between the corners of the eyes and the tips of the brows on this face, I still can't imagine why I waited so long. Had I known she would not have come so early. But the Qingtuan is quite delicious. You haven't eaten yet. Well, just got up. I understand, I understand. A long separation is better than a wedding. Tong Yu nodded and saw that the Xiaoji housekeeper who had just brought her youth and tea had brought her breakfast. She raised her hand and said, you can eat first, and we'll wait until after we finish chat. I eat, you say. Hearing this, Tong Yu simply put down the tablet she had just picked up. When I found out that one of the people competing with you was Chen Qian, I was really worried about you. It just so happened that Mr. Xiao gave us the script, so I took it because I was afraid that if you failed to compete. Others don't know, but she accompanied Zhang Lingzi to practice driving. She had just become proficient in ordinary cars, and now she went to practice racing. This basically has nothing to do with others who have participated in racing. Race professional racers to compare. She really didn't have high hopes. But precisely because of this, after learning that one of our own artists had defeated even a professional racing driver and successfully got the role, the surprise was beyond compare. However, the two scripts Mr. Xiao chose for you are also quite good. So we can't blame her for wanting to look at you. Zhang Lingzi took a sip of soy milk and asked, what script is it? One is about ancient crime solving. Although Ichiban is the male protagonist, the heroine is also very good, and the contrast between the characters is great. The other is about the fairy tale adapted from the novel. You can choose the role. But, I'll finish it. After reading the script, I feel that I have a more profound impression on the second female lead than the first female lead. You can take a break for a few days, just in time to read it. Well, if it comes next, can the time be arranged? If she couldn't find time to take pictures, Zhang Lingzi felt there was no need to watch it. Every gain must be given up. If you see it, you should be really moved, but it will only increase your anxiety. Tong Yu gritted her teeth and asked, did Director Feng tell you how long the filming cycle of The Wind is? In 1 to 2 months, the preliminary preparations have been completed. The rest of the past few days is mainly for the crew to make adjustments. Once the adjustments are made, we can start shooting directly. 1 or 2 months, Tong Yu said, a little more, turn on the tablet and start counting the time. By the time she finished, Zhang Lingzi had also finished her breakfast. How about it? The costume crime drama is still in the process of selecting actors. I just roughly calculated that it will have to wait until 2 months before the official start of filming, and it may be even longer. This can be staggered. But the fairy tale theme has already been, the preparations are almost complete, and the actors have been found. There are only a few female roles that have not yet been decided. I estimate that if you can finish filming The Wind in 1.5 months, there is still hope. Then I'd better read the script first. If the script is really exciting, then she might as well give it a try. Tong Yu immediately took out the script from her bag and handed it over. She saw that Zhang Lingzi was about to read it. After taking it, don't rush to read this now. The finale of Empress Yuan Zhao has already been aired while you were in closed training. You want to see the data during the time it was broadcast. I also asked Zheng Zheng and Yao Yao to collaborate on a PPT. Zhang Lingzi had no choice but to put down the script and took the tablet from Tong Yu. Tong Yu volunteered to be the PPT commentator again. This first picture is the ratings of each episode during the broadcast of Empress Yuan Zhao. Look, the episode where you ascended the throne and the last episode had the highest ratings, soaring to 12. The others are also, it hasn't been lower than 8, which is quite scary. The second page is the online evaluation they captured. It currently has a score of 9.2, which is 9. There have been very few TV dramas with a score of 9 in recent years. There is a heavyweight Mulan Award in the TV drama industry in April and May every year. Your Empress Yuan Zhao just happened to catch up this year. I think there is a high probability that it will be nominated. Zhang Lingzi looked at Tong Yu's eyes full of longing as she spoke, maybe I can even win a prize. Tong Yu, I can only dream about it. If you can really win the Best Actress award for Empress Yuan Zhao in one fell swoop, then it will really be a drama that will make you a god. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Zhang Lingzi poured her a glass of water. Sister Tong, don't forget there is also Survival, written by director Li. I haven't forgotten this. However, if you take on both of these scripts on the table, I'm afraid you'll be stuck in the first half of the year. Zhang Lingzi answered unambiguously, then I'll take a rest in the second half of the year. Tong Yu, you really dare to think about it? The heat is so high that I actually want to spend the first half of the year working and the second half of the year resting. We'll talk about it then. The first half of the year will be tiring, and we'll make a more relaxed announcement in the second half of the year. It's impossible to use it all for rest. Zhang Lingzi said. That's all she said. By the way, Sister Tong, can I advertise privately? Advertise? What to advertise? What to advertise for? It's just a beauty product for lightening spots and removing scars. There is no advertising fee. I just recommend it to people who need it. Why do you suddenly want to advertise this product? You have neither spots nor scars on your face, so you don't need this product. It's a product of a relative at home, but the effect is absolutely guaranteed. But I remember that one of the contracts I signed before was that you cannot accept advertising privately. Otherwise she wouldn't have asked this question. It is true that you cannot contact advertisements privately. This requires the filing of a contract between the company and the product side. However, if you just give netizens and your fans something that you think is useful, there is nothing wrong with it. Money transactions can still be exploited, Tong Yu said with a wink. Zhang Lingzi immediately understood. I understand. Tong Yu continued to give her advice. That's not good. Your account has been growing for a month. You have been idle for the past 2 days. You can simply post an update and include the products you want to recommend when taking pictures. Nowadays, many netizens and fans don't know how to choose useful skincare products, so they like to refer to the skincare products used by celebrities. You see, just like this, some people can take out the dressing tables that celebrities show off. Once again, they will search for this product without you specifically recommending it. Zhang Lingzi, I learned it.